Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the head coach at G.R.A.C.E Financial Coaching, and Michael Reed is with us today. Michael is a men's coach dedicated to helping men navigate the modern masculinity crisis by bridging the gap between science, psychology, evolution, and history. Michael teaches emotional intelligence to those who have spent too much time sharpening their IQ instead of their EQ. He guides men towards resilience, confidence, and personal fulfillment. Michael's mission is to help men get what they want in life, truly what they want, without sacrificing who they are by breaking free from the limiting patterns and stepping into their full potential. Michael, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So I 100% believe that there is a modern masculinity crisis. My mom used to say this thing whenever my little brother would start to annoy me. She would say, he's just being a boy. He's just being a boy. And I actually don't think that that was a degrading thing to say, because it resonated with me that your little brother who's a boy is doing things differently than you.
Yeah.
And I think that's true, but we have tried to make men too feminine recently.
A lot of men are treated as malfunctioning women. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we, I'm sure there's going to be people out there listening who are like, well, do we want to get back to the days of crusades and when men were killing everyone else in their past? No, that's not what we're saying. What are we saying? What are we trying to do by overcoming this masculinity crisis?
Trying to get men, at least what I'm trying to do, what people are trying to do, trying to get men to understand that a lot of their behaviors and their inclinations towards certain personality perks and traits and things like that is much more biological and evolutionary than it is like social and societal. And then how do we then start to integrate and utilize these parts of ourselves in healthier ways rather than sabotaging and trying to suppress them and push them down? Like you mentioned a second ago, it's like boys being boys when they're young. A lot of young guys, boys in particular, they need a lot more physical activity. They need a lot more physicality in terms of how they learn, like a lot more hands-on experience, rough and tumble play, things like that. And nowadays it's getting I think in the past 50 or 70 years, the amount of recess, especially in school, has dropped by 70, 80%, something like that.
Is it really that much? I was going to say half.
Maybe more. It's been getting worse. And the problem is that one of the presumptions was that more classroom time would lead to better grades. If you're studying more, you're going to get smarter. But what a lot of people didn't realize is that the physical act of playing was part of the learning process for a lot of kids, especially things like social and emotional things, like learning how to negotiate conflicts, learning how to negotiate emotional self-regulation, how to learn to play with other people in a healthy and safe way, where your boundaries lie, what you like and what you don't like. You can't just draw that on a blackboard. You have to go out and live it, and they have to do that themselves. And especially nowadays with the lack of recess, we're already seeing a lot of schools that if they start to implement more physical activity, the rates of in-school disciplinary things like boys in detention, boys getting suspension goes down dramatically.
Right.
Have more opportunities just to get that energy out in a productive and fun, playful way. Whereas contrary to that, the structure of schooling nowadays really unintentionally favors a lot of girls more than.
Oh yeah. Sit there, be quiet. Don't make any noise. Don't talk out of turn. Do your lessons. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not so much that girls can't also be rambunctious and playful. It's more that if you ask between a young boy and a young girl, can you stay focused on a task by paying attention, looking forward, and just sitting still for long? Girls can do it for longer than boys can. And so they're looking at the boys why aren't you acting like them? And the boys are saying, I just have this buzzing feeling in me that I want to run around in circles and just jump off chairs. And then you're telling me there's something wrong with me.
Right.
You're telling me I'm a bad person because I didn't ask for this feeling. It's just happening.
Right. And there's an occupational therapist that I've worked with in the past, and she is a huge proponent. She also happens to have 7 kids,
Good for her.
Boys and girls mixed.
Yeah.
And she is a huge proponent of recess and, really pushes in her community of occupational therapists who work in schools specifically to go and make these recommendations to whoever's making those decisions, the principal, the school board, because we're talking usually about more elementary aged kids. Mm-hmm. But even middle school and high school and adults, we need breaks in order to be able to process things. We, even as adults, can't sit at a desk or whatever we're doing for 8-9 hours a day. We're going to go crazy if we don't have a break in there.
Very few people can probably do that comfortably, but
Yeah.
yeah, most of the time you need breaks. And a lot of times what we see is a lot of these guys, young boys who grow up around that environment that there's something wrong with you. Sit still, be quiet, be something, and it's conflicting with like not that you should just let them do whatever the hell they want whenever they want, but give them like more of a focused outlet.
Right.
And what we see is I see a lot of times with guys that I work with, it's just like this feeling of stepping out of their comfort zone to try new things, or like they're curious about something else and they just pull back and they're just like, no, I'm not supposed to be doing that. Oh, why? I don't know. It's just a feeling. And where it's all coming from is like, how many times did you have this feeling in the past and someone told you like, no, stop feeling that feeling. Stop being curious. Stop being energetic. Stop being, stepping out of your comfort zone. Stop, pushing boundaries and things like that. And they end up becoming just completely withdrawn and they can't explain where or why it came from.
So really this phenomenon is looking back and saying that the difference between men and women is more about nature, and we're trying to nurture the masculinity out of men. We're trying to take our processes and place them on guys, little boys, or even men, and say, hey, that natural thing that you're feeling, that's not right. Here, we're going to nurture it out of you, basically.
Yeah, and there's an argument that essentially what happened in the last 200-300 years, especially post-industrial revolution, was that a lot of society used to be around like you were living with your family, your parents, or extended family, maybe around a farm, something like that, in a small community where you may have just been in proximity to mom and dad as they worked their lives, pretty much whatever they were doing. And then when the factories and whatnot came along, a lot of men, because a lot of the physical labor got outsourced away from the home. And then a lot of the time spent was with mom and like the daughters at home growing up. And then you advance that into the modern age where dad goes to work 45 to an hour away from home for 8, 10, 12 hours a day,
commuting
and whatnot. They don't get as much time with them as usually do with mom, especially if it's a stay-at-home mom. They go to school. Most of the teachers are female. They, like, especially in the younger elementary years and developmental years, mostly like, kindergarten through like 5th, 6th grade, most like as it goes up higher, you see more men in those teaching positions, but lower down tends to be mostly female exposure. And a lot of women, female teachers may not understand, like, it's not him trying to be a pain in the ass. It's him just being him.
Right.
It's just what like all the boys, it's either that every single boy you've ever had in your class acts out because they're trying to be a pain in the ass, or there's something just innate to little boys being the way they do. I have this story I mentioned about one of my woman I met. She mentioned about how her house is under renovation, and she was a teacher, and she had to have like the floor removed, had like changed out because it was like 5 years away from collapsing. Something crazy. It was like a really, really old house they lived in, and so they're renovating it while she's living there. And I remember saying, "Oh, that's crazy! Holy crap! You're like living in a house while it's being renovated." And she said, "Yeah, it's even crazier because I have a 2-year-old boy who has ADHD." And I didn't say anything, but I immediately thought like, or you just have a 2-year-old boy. Like, how the hell did you diagnose that? Like, who has a attention span of focus for anything at 2 years old?
At 2 years old, right?
No way. It's way too early to diagnose.
Right. I went to a 1-year-old's birthday party a couple weeks ago, and it was for a girl. And she, if you strictly took the definition of ADHD, you would have diagnosed her right there on the spot. She was also opening like 12 different gifts at the same time.
Yeah.
She's the only grandchild right now. Her grandparents spoiled the absolute crap out of her. One of them got her a ball pit. The other one got her one of those little Mercedes ride on. She's bouncing from toy to toy to toy. But it's because of stimulation overload, not because we're diagnosing her with ADHD at age 1.
Yeah. Most kids really they need time to just let themselves, like, I visited a buddy of mine down south a while back, and I remember while I was there, we were sitting in his living room near the front door, in the front window, and I saw across the way there was like a house. It just had this perfect bird's eye view of the front of the house. These 3 little kids, I think they're all siblings, are playing in the front yard, and the garage door was open. And there was just a wall of toys. And the 3 of them were out there playing with cardboard boxes.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, kids are naturally super curious, a big part of that is creativity. And that within that curiosity and creativity is this idea of trying new things, trying new combinations of things, like just risk taking, healthy risk taking, just like, well, how does this do? How does this, or like hands-on trying things out. And the more you try to numb that out by saying, just do what we tell you to do, you really kind of dampen down that curiosity circuitry over time. And when they're older, there's no sense of stepping out of the comfort zone. Just curious, what would happen if I tried this? How would I try that? Like their own sense of just like I said, curiosity and risk taking gets severely diminished. And we have a lot of guys, especially, who just go through life like, I'm just waiting for someone to tell me what to do because I'm afraid to try.
I was going to say, how are you seeing this play out now in men's coaching?
A
How
lot
are
of
you
guys,
seeing this tamping down of imagination, of risk taking, of allowing them to make their own mistakes?
it's an internal fear that doesn't show up obviously as like, oh, I'm afraid right now. It shows up more as like, I'm not as interested as I think I am.
Okay.
I tend to just stick to very comfortable, familiar things. I don't really step out of my comfort zone too much. Maybe I look at other guys and say like, oh, they're trying too hard, or like I could never do that. I don't know if I
Yes.
could do that before. That's something I would ever do. I'm not really interested. And it ends up, there's a party. It's like, are you curious that would you have given it a try? What would happen if you tried? And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll try it and they'll just feel this like, oh, something is like fighting me so hard right now internally. My anxiety just spiked, my heart rate spiking, whatever it may be. It's this fear of failure just comes flaring up, and then you start to interpret it as like, oh, maybe I'm not interested. When in reality, you might actually be, but it's just this fear of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And if
Right.
you
Fear
didn't
of the
have enough,
unknown. Yeah.
yeah. And if you didn't have enough, you have to, most of childhood is just running, falling on your knees, learning, and then repeating it over and over and over again until you become an adult. And ideally, you'll become a fully grown adult who's not afraid of healthy risk. Like, you shouldn't let your kids run into traffic.
Right.
But the kids are like not tying their shoes and you told them to tie your shoes. Like, let them fall and learn the hard way. It's fine. But just trying new things and just curiosity and play, breaking things down, building. I used to, when I was younger, I remember I got into paintball, and I think I played maybe one game, but the gun itself, I would like disassemble and reassemble like 100 times a day because I was just fascinated by how cool it was. All the parts interlinked in exactly the same. And I was just a huge nerd. That's when I got into engineering at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But just like letting myself just try shit, and just step out of the comfort zone. Like, but especially nowadays, no disrespect to mothers and women, but it's a lot of this fear of like letting your kids go out into the world and getting bumps and bruises.
Yeah. Or disassembling the paintball gun and not being able to get it back together.
And then I got to just figure it out. I got to
you
keep
gotta
doing
just
it again and
figure it
again
out.
until I figure it out. And if I break it, then I break it. Then it's my lesson learned right there.
Right.
But safetyism has become a massive problem, especially for a lot of men, the boys in younger years, and then later on, men who were just afraid to step out of their own shell, out of their own comfort zone, try new things, not realize there's so much more to life that they could enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't realize they might be afraid to try it, not because they're a bad person or because they're wimpy, or because it's because like you've just had internal wiring like built into you from day one of do not do anything that rocks the boat ever. And it's not your fault. It's literally just because it's been coded into you at a very young age that you're still in that survival mode from childhood. And you don't realize it.
How does this play out in relationships?
A lot of, I see the most thing one of two ways. Either I kind of, the way I frame it is like it's one of two ways. One way is either you get guys who are referred to as nice guys.
Okay.
And the other way might be like bad boys.
Okay.
The nice guy is kind of like the guy. It's like, I never rocked the boat. I always made my mom happy. I didn't want to piss anybody off. I never really spoke my mind too much. I tried doing things in a way that got what I wanted without directly asking for it, because I was kind of afraid of, pushing buttons and getting rejected. The bad boy behavior is more like the complete, like, you know what? All that, I'm going 120% into this. And what they're kind of doing, from what I see, is like a nice guy is like situationships, friend zone, things like that.
Ah, yes.
The bad boy might be like the guy who bounces from girl to girl to girl to girl because he's figured out, oh, I can create this persona of like, look at my muscles, look at my charisma. I could speak this exact same perfect way. But if ever you got close enough to me to see who I really was, I would not be able to. I'd freak out and run. So they bounce from relationship to relationship along the way.
Okay. How do we, what is the benefit of coaching for men specifically, men's coaching? Obviously these are men being coached by men would be, the basic definition, I think, in my head. What is the benefit for these guys, whether they're a nice guy or a bad boy? What would be a benefit of working with a men's coach to get past this impasse?
I think the answer partly ask the question of why traditional therapy is not working as well for men. And part of that tends to be that most men are very problem-solving oriented creatures who really like to just we feel good when we do shit and see results. It's less about let's sit around and talk with our girlfriends over brunch and more about let's go build a house together or something like that. But also with the big one with traditional therapy is that a lot of therapists, they don't realize how good men are at bullshitting and hiding things.
Okay.
Really, like this, I think the 75%. I don't know if I mentioned this. 75% of the suicide rate globally is attributed to men,
Yes.
and the vast majority of them had no history of mental health or illness before it happened. But when they left the suicide note behind, the most common two words that were used was like useless and helpless.
Oh.
It was just a feeling at the end of the day, but realistically, it's a question of like, how can we figure out a way to create a life that you find like you have purpose, you have a usefulness to somebody, and then where are your resistances going on, and are you really are you actually being honest about what you're feeling, or do you even realize what you're feeling? A lot of guys have no idea that they're actually feeling what they're feeling in the first place. We talk about this in this ebook thing I'll pitch at the end. It's a term in psychotherapy called alexithymia. It's basically like emotional color blindness. Like a lot of guys do not know that they're feeling, or that what shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, loneliness, frustration, actually like what those feel like. So we tend to default mostly to just, I'm either horny or I'm angry or I don't care. It's one of those three, basically.
Right. I'm mad or I'm upset. That's not,
Yeah. And so what a big part of it is that you have to be in the presence of somebody that can cultivate a healthy amount of space for you to like emotionally be able to like reconnect with something. Because you're just, as men, people in general, men in particular, you have a lot of natural subconscious psychological guards that go up where you're trying to like not show what you're feeling. And this might show up if a guy's really wondering, like, well, does that really apply to me? It's like, if you're very emotionally volatile, if you have a super short temper, if you've had a lot of tragic stuff happen in your life and all you've ever been is like angry or annoyed about it, but you kind of, I'm fine. Like things that should like emotionally break you in some way, like death in the family, lost your job, went bankrupt. Yeah, just fucking pisses me off. Really? Is that the right emotion you should be feeling
Is that
right
really
now?
exactly what you're feeling?
Or is it
that
something else you're feeling, but you don't actually know you're feeling it? And
right.
so
Right.
a lot
Or
of these
don't
guys,
have I don't want to say don't have the vocabulary.
that's it. No, that's actually correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's too. Like they don't realize, like, oh, this feeling in my stomach, that's what shame feels. That's what guilt feels like. Oh, this burning in my chest, this is my anger. Is it justified or not? And getting guys to, I like to look at the neuroscience of it, but understanding that like a lot of these emotions and feelings and whatnot, just because you can't feel them doesn't mean they're not there. We've actually done like we refer to as fMRI, which is ferromagnetic resonance imaging. It's like an alteration of MRI studies of parts of the brain that we know are associated with emotional activity that will still be going off, even if you ask the person, what are you feeling right now? As you see this, they'll be like, I don't know, I don't feel feeling. It's still happening, but if the disconnect is there, you need to have time and energy and repetition and practice to literally learn how to feel like, okay, I'm feeling shame. What am I feeling shame about? Have I actually like ever disclosed this to somebody? Kind of like refer to just getting it out of your system, like letting it offloading that guilt and shame and feeling, and retraining yourself. Because essentially what's happening is these negative experiences tend to turn into like an inner critic. A lot of guys have a very, very, very toxic sense of like inner voice.
Oh.
They just like, they might project they're an asshole to you, but they hate themselves 10 times more.
Oh.
But a lot of times that no baby is born hating themselves. That came from somewhere.
Right.
Somebody or something had to have taught you you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not X, Y, and Z.
Some experience that you had at some point.
Yeah,
You could have been
or
2,
repetition.
you could have been 22.
Yeah, it could have been your dad, just it was never good enough for him, or your mom was withholding affection and love, or maybe your girlfriend broke your heart over and over in high school because you were a nice guy and you don't understand how girls actually operate, what actually finds them attractive and whatnot. And then after a while, you start to go like, what the hell's wrong with me? I can't get what I want. I'm afraid to try everything. I must suck. It must be me. There's the problem. And the only way to really get that to actually really change is by going to somebody else and saying like, I suck, right? And then they go like, I don't think you suck. And now you have two narratives. You're like, oh shit. One of them is telling me I suck, but now has an alternate version telling me it doesn't suck. Which one do I want to hold on to?
Right.
And when it comes to changing those kind of the voices and ideas and the feelings, you have to use other people as a reflection of what you should be feeling.
I really 100% agree with the traditional therapy doesn't necessarily always work for guys. And I've strongly subscribed to men being in groups with other men.
Yeah.
That could mean being in a one-on-one men's coaching relationship or a group men's coaching relationship. That could mean finding a bunch of guys that you ride motorcycles with.
Yeah.
That could mean going and playing dodgeball at the local rec center, and there's a men's side and there's a women's side, and then there's a co-ed team. But being around other men in a group and doing some sort of activity, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it just popped into my head. We helped a friend move recently. I actually hesitate to even use the word friend. They were an acquaintance, but we were mutual friends with other people, and we happened to be there when this person said, "Hey, I'm moving in 2 weeks. Can anyone here give me a hand?" We have a truck. They were moving from one town to the next town. They weren't going very far. We looked at the calendar. We're like, we're not doing anything. We got 2 phone calls from that guy in the last 2 weeks thanking us. Not just phone calls, FaceTime. I don't know a lot of guys who do FaceTime, but full-on FaceTime phone calls saying thank you twice. And we feel more connected with that person now that we physically did something with this group of people than we do with people we typically hang out with every month, because we physically did something together and we accomplished something together. So I don't think it's necessarily only men who have that. I think I have that, but I could also just go to brunch with a girlfriend and talk about stuff too. So
yeah. And as far as the therapy thing too, a big part is like a lot of therapists, they may not have a good ability to spot men's bullshit. And I don't mean to say men are full of bullshit, but it's like we're very prone to hide things. I myself included. I did this for years, where I just like was hiding parts of what I was really feeling or how I was feeling. But when you work with somebody who really can spot, like, okay, your words did not line up with the fact that like you can't look at me in the eyes. You're looking off constantly, or like you're off to the side, or maybe you're getting a little jittery. It's like, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm fine. Whatever it may be. And just having the confidence to say, like, whatever you're feeling, I can handle it. And it's like, a lot of guys get this feeling of nobody would be able to understand what I'm going through. And if I can't find anybody who could do that, then I can't really let it out. So I might as well just hold it in until it blends them and burns them up from the inside.
Right. Or take it. My favorite analogy of this that I've heard from therapists, specifically with men, is take that feeling that we may not be able to even name, put it in a box, close the box, and put the box under the bed, metaphorically speaking.
I don't know if I even agree with that, to be honest.
No?
No, because that's just like a form of suppression.
Okay. So you're saying that's different than what guys are doing is what we should be doing into therapy.
Like most guys,
opening up.
You should open up, but most guys, people in general, like if something tragic happens to you, whatever it may be, like there's a whole biological process where your body goes through the motions emotionally of processing what happened. And part of that processing is physical in the form of, it could be crying, could be anger, could be yelling, could be just, like, you've ever seen somebody who's traumatized and they're shaking so bad? That's like the nervous system trying to sedate itself via vibrations and just kind of expelling energy in a way. If you keep bottling that up, it's just going to start blowing out in other areas of your life. If you put it under the bed, it's like a grenade putting under the bed, hoping it doesn't blow the bed up one day.
Right.
Like that. And so boxing it up and bottling it up depends on what it really is, but most guys have a lot of friggin' shitload of anger that nobody's ever truly seen before. A lot of rage, a lot of grief, a lot of shame, a lot of just frustration towards, the past, towards their family, towards their friends. They don't realize they're still holding that, but it pops up in certain ways where it's like they don't, like I said earlier, they're afraid to take risks. They're afraid to try this, afraid to try that. They don't want to get hurt because the last relationship messed them up, or they have a fear of intimacy because their parents never actually cared about them. And this comes back to guys hearing like the childhood stuff, and it's like, oh, is it childhood bullshit again? It's really a lot more. It's a lot more built into that than you realize, because your nervous system gets wired and programmed in childhood depending on how your environment was growing up.
Gotcha.
So like if your parents showing you love and affection is their way of creating a safe space to allow you to be curious and explore. If it was a toxic home environment, you're constantly on the defensive. But that doesn't stop until one day you actually say, like, okay, I need to change this. I need to fix this.
Right.
Part of fixing it is letting out all that frustration that you've been holding on to for all these years towards mom, towards dad, towards your siblings, towards that ex-girlfriend, and letting it be heard by another person. So A, you get it off your chest, and B, you can say to yourself, like, oh, I wasn't crazy in thinking this or feeling this. Okay, like this intensity is valid. It's okay. And B, starting to ask, like, what is the step-by-step we're going to start to do to try to like change this feeling and behavior? A lot of guys, like men, used to lean more what we refer to as avoidant in the past, where it's like they're fearful of intimacy, they're fearful of getting close and connection. They've had like it's almost like emotional shutdown. It's like when someone, they get into a new relationship and this is like the girl, so like it's like, oh, I love you, you're amazing, and all of a sudden just go, oh, whoa, it's a little bit too much. I don't know what it is. A little bit too much for me.
Back up.
Or I got something. I got to work. I got to go do something, and I can't be like cuddly and soft the way she wants me to be because there's something in my system telling me not to. A lot of women tend to lead more towards anxious, which is like, I need you to need me. I need you. I need you to give me all this stuff. I need you to hold on. And this tends to fall into the anxious avoidant trap we refer to in attachment theory, where it's like an avoidant person sees what they want in the anxious person, which is like, oh, I like your ability to be open and vulnerable. And the anxious person sees in the avoidant person, oh, I like your ability to be like emotionally grounded. But the reality is you're not emotionally grounded, you're emotionally cut off.
Right.
And the other person is not emotionally grounded, the person's like emotionally dependent.
Gotcha.
And so the closer the anxious person gets to the avoidant person, the more it pushes them back, which causes them to freak out because they feel like they're being rejected and abandoned, causes them to get closer, causes them to back, and eventually it turns into a death spiral that blows up the relationship, unless both people can basically say like, all right, we need to put down some ground rules of like when we have a fight, we have a discussion. We're like, if you have a shutdown, if you have a neediness, whatever it is, it might be like we need to once a week meet up and just do a connection exercise. And the person who's avoiding might be like, okay, I can do it for 10 minutes before I'm going to explode, and I need a break, but I'll come back. And there's different tools and things you can use. And over time of this consistency of saying to the anxious person, like they're not going anywhere, they will come back. And the avoidant person saying, I have to lean a little bit more into the like intimacy moments whenever it comes up, even if I don't know what to say or do, just sit there with it despite the feeling of discomfort coming into my system until eventually it just becomes normalized.
So it's more of an exercise in stepping out of comfort zones for both people. Yeah. Well, I know that you already alluded to your ebook, which will be coming out later this year, but we will definitely have you back on when that is out because I want to hear more about that too.
It's like 99% done, actually.
Oh, nice.
I wrapped it up today. I'm happy. If people are interested, I'm going to probably set up some kind of place where they could download it.
Yeah.
Or it's about 80 pages, but it's all chunked into sections. And it's pretty much like still in like an editing process, but I'm happy to have people step in if they want to like give suggestions, what they want to add, if something was wrong. They're more than welcome to help me with that process if they want to, and things we want to learn and whatnot. But it's meant to be my goal is to get something like a through line sequence for people to understand, like from like an evolutionary perspective, from a scientific perspective, neuroscience, maybe a little bit of spirituality, like what was masculinity, what were men, like what does testosterone do from a science-based and hormonal perspective? What did it do back then? What is it supposed to do today? Why is it being sabotaged now? How do we fix it going forward?
Nice. Yeah.
Or every other hormone in there too. Yeah.
And all of Michael's contact information will be in our show notes as always today. So feel free to reach out to him. So in the meantime, Michael, we do have to have you answer our number one question, which is, what would you say up until this point in your life is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
In 2021, I bought a 2021 Mazda CX-5. It was about just over $42,000 plus interest. And I was making good money at the time. I went from like, I'm basically like dancing on broke to holy crap, I have more money than I even knew what to do with. And it was like a nice car. My old car was pretty crappy. And I bought it and I had 2 miles on it. And side note, there's a book, this is a bit of a mess behind me, but there's a book back there. It's The Legacy Journey by Dave Ramsey, who I know you actually work with.
Yeah.
And in the book, he talks about, being realistic about staying within your means financially. And it's like, I could afford the car. Do I really need it? Not really that much. I probably could have got a little cheaper, but it was a nice car. And I never had a brand new car before. And in the book, he talks a story about how, like, God will humble you when you try to do things like this. And he mentions it, specifically mentions, like, yeah, you're going to buy a brand new car and you're going to go like a parking lot somewhere and some idiot's going to like open their car door too wide, put a dent in it within 3 days of buying it.
Yep.
So 3 weeks after I bought my brand new car with 2 miles off the lot, I clipped a buck, like a full grown deer. I almost hit it full on. I came close because I actually had to swerve out of the way. And I remember I was with a friend of mine. We were going to dinner somewhere. And I literally just heard like a thump on the side of the car. And I spent about 5 seconds being like infuriated, like, this car is 3 weeks old. Are you serious? Followed by, holy crap, we could have just died. Oh my God. Okay, we're good. And there's there's like one decently sized big dent and another smaller one. And I haven't buffed them out as a constant reminder of like, stay humble. you don't need this. Just, yeah, you'll do well in life, but still stay within your means. Like,
So
this is
we
a
still have
constant
the
reminder.
car.
It's
and
still
the
there.
car's
I'll send you a
still
picture if you want. You can post it with the show notes. It's still there. And I could have had it fixed in the past 4 years, and I haven't bothered. I'm like, no, this is a good reminder. I'm keeping it.
That's great. No, and so I guess this is probably one of the lessons learned that you wouldn't have changed. Because if it didn't happen, if you had missed the buck completely, the car would still be brand new, and perhaps you wouldn't have been humbled up to this point.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love that story. It's so true. We've had lots of car stories on here, but not one like that. And full disclosure for people who don't live in an area with deer, those things will literally total your car. So you guys were really lucky.
Deer in headlights is a valid
an actual
phrase.
term.
Yeah.
An actual term.
It was nighttime too, and it was and he just stopped and stared at me, and he's like, "You want to do this?" I was like, "Not really, no." And I just swerved as hard as I could. Hopefully, gladly didn't hit on the car into the lane because I had to go like a full lane over to dodge him.
Gosh!
And he walked away. He didn't give a shit.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was impressive how dense those things are. But
yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Michael. Well, thank you so much. We're definitely going to have you back on when that ebook is fully published, because this is a conversation that I think definitely needs to be had. And I know that a lot of guys do listen to this show, and I think a lot of people will appreciate it from the male and the female perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And I hope everybody will see us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.